becomes available, they can package Kevin Love and the pick for Boogie. And that would probably make LeBron stay even more, because I think that team with IT, LeBron, and Boogie.
What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I am back with another video. Now, over the last several weeks now, a lot of people have been speculating on what exactly the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics could possibly do to take them to the next step after the Kyrie Irving and Isaiah Thomas trade. Because if we're really going to be honest with ourselves, sure, they both made really good transactions that I honestly believe best benefited both teams. Neither one of those teams are still good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors, so that is leaving a lot of people asking what is next. And through that line of questioning, a lot of people are looking at the New Orleans Pelicans, as they are one of the very few teams that still has a significant amount of talent on their roster, but possibly could be underachieving in the next upcoming season. Now, honestly, I don't think that it's going to happen, but I do believe it's going to be great for all parties involved in the trade, regardless if it's between the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers. And if you've been following the channel for the past several months now, so let's break down some of these transactions and these trades, and you leave in the comment section below what you believe might potentially happen between both of these teams. Now, first, let's start off pretty obvious with the Boston Celtics and their ability to go after Anthony Davis. Now, we can all agree that Al Horford and the amount of money that he's receiving is a bit too much. Sure, Al Horford can be really productive, especially depending on what type of system that he's playing in. But again, he is still getting paid a little bit too much, especially because, the great Al Horford is already in his 30s. And obviously, when it comes to Anthony Davis, he's a massive step up when it comes to talent, but also more importantly, he does resolve a lot of big problems when it comes to the Boston Celtics, especially rebounding and rim protection. But more importantly, and the biggest reason why the Boston Celtics more than likely will be able to pull off this trade is because the Boston Celtics are in a very unique situation. Not only do they have the assets and personnel to trade for a player such as Anthony Davis, regardless of its young players such as Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, or even some draft picks that they still have in their possession, but also they are in a situation to take advantage of Anthony Davis in the next several years in his prime, which no team in the NBA can claim that they're in that same situation. So, in my opinion, they should just take advantage of that, trade Al Horford, a few draft picks, and even if it comes down to Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, to go after and get a player such as Anthony Davis. Now, I know a lot of people want to ask me why exactly should they keep moving draft picks, especially if they have the possibility to draft players such as Marvin Bagley or Michael Porter Jr. And it's because, let's just be honest, none of that stuff is promised. Sure, both of those players look really, really good, and I honestly believe that they will go on to have really successful basketball careers, even at an NBA level. But Anthony Davis is really, really special. He's already in the NBA, performing at an elite level, and he's only 24 years old. So it's not like we're referring to getting a player who's 27, 28, or even in his 30s. You're still getting younger when you get Anthony Davis. Going after another young player, it may take another 2 to 3 years for that player, regardless of who it is, to produce at an elite level. And by that time, we're talking about Kyrie Irving in his late 20s, Gordon Hayward in his 30s, and who knows even if the player, regardless if it's Porter or Bagley, will be able to produce at an elite level. Why not just go after something that's more guaranteed than Anthony Davis? And I think that's something that they should do. Moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and this is where things get really, really risky, and I thoroughly understand why people may not believe that this is going to happen, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. A lot of people are speculating that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to move their pick to go after DeMarcus Cousins. Now, why exactly would they do this? The truth of the matter when it comes to Cleveland, regardless of what they do, they're going to have a hard time bringing on talented players because they are significantly over the salary cap. Even with LeBron and Isaiah Thomas coming out the salary this upcoming season, they're still going to have a hard time bringing talent to the team because there is still not enough wiggle room financially for their roster due to overpaid players. However, if you have the ability to move Kevin Love, Iman Shumpert, or whoever you need to move to go out there and get expiring contracts such as DeMarcus Cousins, wouldn't you do it? Now, again, I understand this is a very, very big risk because no one doesn't know what exactly LeBron is going to do in his next upcoming offseason, and everything, and when I say everything, I really, really mean everything, is dictated off of what LeBron is going to do with his next upcoming offseason. And because no one doesn't know this, I understand the risk is there. But let's walk down this hypothetical street so we understand what potentially could happen. If you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, you can trade Kevin Love along with Iman Shumpert with the Brooklyn Nets pick. Throw some protections on there just in case. You know, you got to be real safe about that pick. But trade those 3 assets to the New Orleans Pelicans and in return receive DeMarcus Cousins and Quincy Pondexter. And what's going to happen after the next season, LeBron, Isaiah Thomas, DeMarcus Cousins, Quincy Pondexter will all be off of the books, and the only player that's going to be receiving a significant amount of money on the roster is Tristan Thompson, and then even he won't be receiving a $20 million contract the next year. He'll be only getting paid $17 million. So because of this, you will have more than enough flexibility financially to add pieces to the puzzle. With players such as Paul George and then Chris Paul also being free agents, there's a possibility that you could be able to persuade Chris Paul to come play the point guard position, bring on Paul George, play the perimeter, and then when you have those 2 players under contracts, it's definitely going to be much easier to persuade LeBron to come back to the roster. And if you really wanted to, you should be able to bring back DeMarcus Cousins as well, because when you made the trade for him, you still were able to keep his bird rights, so you still should be able to go over the salary cap. So because of this, you could have a lineup, potentially a lineup that features Chris Paul at point. If you want to start Jay Crowder at 2, then fine, Jay Crowder at 2, Paul George at 3, LeBron at 4, and then DeMarcus at 5. This right here will be a lineup that I believe will be able to compete with the Golden State Warriors for the next several seasons. Again, though, I thoroughly understand that this is a massive risk, because if you make that trade and then LeBron doesn't come back or doesn't show any signs whatsoever that he is going to come back, then Paul George and Chris Paul more than likely are not going to make the transition to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But trying to be optimistic, the reason why you would want to join the Cleveland Cavaliers is, for one, you don't want to stay in the Western Conference because it's extremely obvious that that conference will be dominated over the next 2 or 3 seasons by the Golden State Warriors. And if you get caught up trying to compete with the Warriors and you're not on a legitimate team, not only are you losing, but more likely you're not even going to make All-Star games, All-NBA appearances, and you'll slowly but surely start getting lost in the powerhouse that is the Western Conference. And when you're a player like Paul George, I think Chris Paul will definitely make the Hall of Fame, but Paul George, you need to cement your legacy to at least make the Hall of Fame, and your best way to cement your legacy is by winning a massive amount of games over the next several seasons, and the only way that you can really and truly do that is not only in the Eastern Conference, but on a contender like the Cleveland Cavaliers could potentially be with this roster that I'm constructing. Now, when it comes to the Pelicans, and I know this is where a lot of people get lost, and I'm going to just be completely honest with you all, I may have jumped on the bandwagon a little bit too soon when it comes to DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. Sure, hypothetically speaking, many people believe that both of those players are top 10 talents in the NBA right now, and sure, that sounds great on paper, but in today's NBA, it's extremely obvious that the league is dominated by perimeter players, especially at the point guard and small forward position, and you can make a very legitimate argument, especially because they overpaid Jrue Holiday, and if Quincy Pondexter is their starting small forward, we're going to have a massive problem. Not only that, the New Orleans Pelicans have really sold into the idea of just trying to build around Anthony Davis at all costs. And when I say at all costs, I mean financially and also with their assets. Because financially speaking, like I stated earlier, they overpaid Jrue Holiday. But not only that, they traded away all of their young players and their draft picks to build around Anthony Davis. Nerlens Noel, Austin Rivers, Buddy Hield, and the several other picks that they had within the same time frame, all traded away. So it's not like the Pelicans are sitting back hoping that a player that they drafted a few years ago will start to develop into a starting role for the team. So really what you have with the Pelicans is what you're going to get. And if this doesn't work out in the first 2 to 3 months, I can honestly see the Pelicans pulling the trigger to get rid of some of these pieces to bring in some more talent along with the draft pick. And again, when it comes to Anthony Davis, trade DeMarcus Cousins, get Kevin Love. Anthony Davis is still a top 10 player. Kevin Love is still a pretty solid contributor. And regardless if it's Kevin Love or Al Horford, there's a possibility that either one of those players may be better fitted for the Pelicans because they are both accustomed to being the second or third option in the offense, and that may be better suited for what exactly the Pelicans may need in the near future. And also the Pelicans get a draft pick regardless if it's the Lakers pick from the Boston Celtics or the Brooklyn pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers. So honestly, I think it's a good transaction for everyone. So with all that being said, people, tell me what you think about the video in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or even the New Orleans Pelicans. Tell me what you think they should do in the near future. And also have a poll in the top right hand corner. I would be very, very pleased if you went and clicked on the card and voted on the poll. Please do that, because I'm trying to work on a project and it's going to be very, very time consuming, and I need your interaction to help me with that. But with all that being said, I will see you all later. Peace.